Amazing puppy delivers black bag to hospital, revealing an incredible surprise that changed lives. Emily trudged through the hospital corridors, the steady pitter-patter of rain echoing her own heartbeat. It was another dreary afternoon after Lucas's latest doctor appointment, one filled with the familiar sense of dread. The bills were piling up on the kitchen table, and the weight of uncertainty hung heavily on her shoulders. Just as she was about to pull Lucas closer, a sudden bark shattered the gloom. A scruffy little puppy with captivating eyes, tethered by a distinct black bag around its neck. It looked hopeful, almost desperate, as if it could sense their shared plight. That scene captured a frozen moment in time, pulling Emily back to her father's words about compassion, making her heart flutter between fear and a longing to act. As they embraced the little one, Lucas laughed, momentarily forgetting the sadness of the hospital. "Can we keep her, Mom? Please." The plea tugged at Emily's heart, igniting a flicker of joy deep inside. But the gnawing reality loomed large. Could they afford a pet? Would hope, as they soon named her, just deepen the cracks in their fragile lives? The morning shifts at the diner and evening hours cleaning houses exhausted her, yet watching her son smile again felt like a weight lifted, if only for a moment. Weeks passed and hope became the bright thread woven into the fabric of their lives. Dinnertime laughter replaced silence as the output of Lucas's joyous heart reverberated through their small apartment. But the joy was fragile, money was still tight, and the next hospital visit loomed over them like a storm cloud. Emily wrestled with conflicting thoughts while juggling her demanding workload. Each time she walked through the hospital's sterile halls, her mind raced with worry. Could this adorable puppy be the comfort they needed, or would she, in all her pride, be sacrificing their simple joys for a life of chasing monetary safety? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Then came the day when everything shifted. As they waited for the doctor, hope darted away. Emily's heart dropped into her stomach as panic swelled. Where could she be? The waiting room blurred around her, and she barely registered the whispers of concern. But a few moments later, the chaos unleashed its very brand of magic. Hope reappeared in front of the nurse's station, her tail wagging furiously. With a determined stride, she dropped the black bag at their feet, an unexpected delivery fueled by instinct. Curiosity rippled through the room. What lay within? The announcement made it clear. The bag contained legal documents, an inheritance left entirely for Lucas. A small local bakery belonging to his grandfather. A man she hadn't known but was suddenly dragged into her life. Confusion clenched Emily's chest, terror mixing with a potent sense of hope. The weight of the moment bore down on her. This legacy of potential wealth was like poison stinging her thoughts, a chance to elevate them from mere survival, yet shrouded in moral doubt. Should she embrace this unknown inheritance that could change everything, or adhere to her father's doctrine of humility and hard work? Did accepting the bakery mean forfeiting their simple joys, replacing laughter with corporate expectations? The swirling emotions crashed against her mind, making her muscles tense as uncertainty coursed through her. She had seen what wealth could do, mistrust creeping into relationships, ambition overshadowing love. Could they navigate this newfound territory without losing their bond? As Emily's grip tightened on the steering wheel during the ride home, her heart raced between hope and fear, the fresh smell of rain, a cruel reminder of life's unpredictability. Would she take the plunge into this swirling vortex of opportunity, or would fear keep her tethered to the identity she had fought so long to build? The roads blurred ahead as Hope settled into the back seat, panting contentedly. The pivotal decision loomed larger than ever in her mind, leaving a heavy tension in the air. The sound of rain drummed against the windshield, muffling the chaotic storm brewing inside Emily. The bakery, her mind swirled with the prospect. A small family-owned business, a footing into a world that seemed at once tantalizing and terrifying. The idea that they could step beyond the confines of survival sparked a myriad of questions, the most pressing being, who was she kidding? Could she really run a business? As she pulled into her parking spot, the oppressive weight felt heavier. She sat for a moment, absorbing Hope's excited barks from the back seat, a reminder of the joy they had embraced in the chaos of their lives. In stark contrast, emerging from this new consideration was an unsettling realization. She had spent years learning the ropes of resilience but hardly any on seizing opportunities. The thought alone ignited a wave of self-doubt. Would she even know how to manage a bakery? Would she be letting Lucas down if she faltered in the pursuit of this inheritance? As they stepped into their small apartment, the same four walls that had witnessed their struggles now seemed constricting. She dropped her keys into the dish. There was no turning back, not now. Taking a deep breath, Emily leaned against the wall, doing a quick inventory of their life. Hurting pockets and memories too precious to lose coiled within her. Could she risk destabilizing the very foundation she had constructed for her son? The sweet laughter that echoed in her mind now felt tainted with the shadows of uncertainty. Hope trotted up to Emily, her wagging tail brushing against the redness of her own cheeks, just as every thought reminded her of what she had to gain. Maybe, just maybe, she could channel her vulnerability into a venture that brought life back into their world, a legacy, as fragile yet hopeful as the little dog nudging her arm. Shaking off her reservations, she turned to Lucas, who was busy engrossed in his toy. "What do you think, buddy, about opening a bakery?" His eyes widened. "A bakery? You mean like with cookies? And cakes?" A smile broke through Emily's worries, their tight bond flickering back to life. "Yes, all of that. Think about the cookies, Lucas." He clapped his hands, innocence radiating from his expression. "Can we make the biggest chocolate chip cookies ever?" As they laughed together, Emily's thoughts raced. This was how it started. It began with shifting from fear to possibility, nurturing not only their dreams, but their relationship. The question remained, though, was it merely daydreaming, or could they turn this playful ambition into a reality? The prospect of danger danced in the corners of her mind, sudden fluctuations of doubt slashing through her resolve. She had witnessed enough to recognize the obstacles, the sleepless nights, demanding schedules, and merciless competition. Perhaps she would be tapping into a well of personal ability she had long buried alongside ambition. The struggle weighed on her like a chain, the question of whether she could unlock hidden talents nagging at her core. The next morning, Emily stood at the bakery storefront, mind buzzing with enticing ideas and dreams. It was both exhilarating and terrifying. A second chance brimming with potential. She was ready to face this challenge head-on. But even as she stood before the painted sign announcing the bakery's closure, she hesitated. What if she wasn't the right person for the job? Tension pulled heavily at her stomach. Her pulse quickened as she reached for the doorknob, uncertainty coiling tightly around her heart. She wasn't just gaining a business. She would be risking everything, and more importantly, risking Lucas's happiness. Fingers trembling, Emily finally twisted the knob. The sweet aroma of yeast and decorations lifted into her senses. Each breath felt like a silent promise, a challenge waiting to unfold, but shadows of her past loomed larger than ever. Would she allow fear to write their fate, or would courage guide them towards a new beginning? Resilience was about to be tested, but so was her very identity. Would she embrace this newfound opportunity, or retreat into the safety of the known? The moments slipped through her fingers as she crossed the threshold into the unfamiliar, leaving her unsure and electrified all at once, and in the depths of her mind one nagging thought coiled tighter. What awaited her within could shatter everything or liberate the both of them forever. And as Emily stepped into the darkness of that bakery, she understood fully that the answer lay in the choices she was about to make. The bakery's interior was a study in contrasts. Dust motes danced in the muted light filtering through the greasy windows, and the once-numbing silence now buzzed with possibilities. The scent of stale flour and sugar wafted through the air like a distant memory. Emily's heart raced as she stepped further inside, her determination mingling with trepidation. This wasn't just a space, it was a canvas upon which she needed to recreate their lives. As the door swung shut behind her, A shiver of anxiety crawled up her spine. She set her gaze on the empty counters and tarnished equipment, remnants of what once thrived here. Could she breathe life back into this dreary shell? Ignoring the knot in her stomach, she began her exploration, running her fingers along the faded countertops. Memories of laughter, flavors, and warmth hung in the air, waiting to be revived. It was more than a bakery. It could be their haven. Each sound she made echoed in the stillness, amplifying her sense of isolation. As she wandered, she noticed a spiral notebook nestled between the grease-stained pages of a cookbook. Opening it, her heart sank a little. Recipes, handwriting bold and confident, filled the pages. She flipped through one, absorbing the careful notes and personal touch. This was someone's passion transcribed, an intimate collection of knowledge and innovation, left untouched. She exhaled slowly, realizing this inherited wisdom could be the key to their survival. She would need to reach beyond her doubts and channel someone else's dedication into her own culinary journey. But could she replicate their vision while infusing her own spirit? The weight of responsibility pressed down heavily. Failure wasn't an option, not when so many dreams hinged on her choices now. Where to start, she murmured to herself, glancing at the empty mixer and old ovens. It felt daunting, like climbing a mountain with no gear or guide. But what if those very appliances held the power to mend their hearts, to stir up laughter, and even to bring back joy? The first decision beckoned. What would she specialize in? As a child, she could recall summer afternoons baking with her mother, trying to recreate those warm, gooey chocolate chip cookies Lucas had been so excited about. She could hear their laughter currently resonating in her mind. Reinventing the cherished recipes would be her golden ticket, her connection to a community she had long broken ties with. With newfound zeal, she started jotting down ideas. She envisioned bright displays filled with colorful treats, a haven inviting families to gather. Hope pranced at her feet, and Emily could almost hear Lucas's enthusiastic voice chattering about how they'd fill jars with cookies of every shape and size. But as she scribbled away, the flicker of fear reminded her of the challenges ahead. Managing the finances, navigating suppliers, and balancing time between the bakery and Lucas. Each consideration terrified her as it wrestled against the bright images in her mind. Still, determination began to rise within her. She might not choose to step back into the shadows. Perhaps it was time to confront the demons of doubt and channel the spirit of the previous bakery owner into something uniquely hers. As she toyed with the tasks ahead, the back door swung open, revealing a figure who peered at her with sharp eyes. It was a woman who looked as if she held secrets, someone who might historically have been an ally to the previous owner, but could easily become an adversary to Emily's aspirations. "What are you doing here?" The woman's voice stabbed through the air. The question settled around Emily like a heavy fog, settling upon her resolve. This wasn't just an introduction. It was an initiation into a world that demanded answers and proclamations of intent. She leveled her gaze, her heart pounding fiercely within her chest. The time had come to face the past embodied in this unexpected encounter. How would Emily reclaim the space and her future amidst eyes that scrutinized her every move? Would she stand firm, or would fear claw at her, pushing her toward retreat? As the challenge loomed before her, she realized there was no backing down now. The path to her dreams had just ignited with the most daunting question yet. Was she ready to stake her claim? Emily took a deep breath, harnessing the rush of emotions that surged within her. The woman stood there, unwavering and expectant, as if sensing the gravity of the moment. This wasn't merely about the bakery. This was about her reclaiming the narrative of her life. "Who are you?" she managed, her voice steadier than she felt. The woman's expression didn't soften, and doubt flickered through Emily's mind like a candle under a gust of wind. At that moment, she realized that reclaiming her space wouldn't be without scrutiny. "I'm Clara," the woman stated matter-of-factly, amused or perhaps irritated by Emily's presence. "I used to work with Mary, the previous owner. I need to know what you're planning." So Clara was intertwined with the very roots of the bakery, a guardian of its legacy, or maybe its jailer. Emily didn't know if Clara would see her efforts as a tribute or a travesty, but one thing was crystal clear. She had to assert herself, forge a path regardless of Clara's judgments. With her mind racing, she made a choice to be bold. "I'm here to reopen this bakery and breathe new life into it," she declared, the firmness of her tone catching even her off guard. Clara raised an eyebrow, skepticism etched across her face. "And what makes you think you can do that? This place has been closed for 2 years. Mary had a vision that you might not grasp." Emily's heart thumped, reverberating against Clara's words. Fear wrestled with the embers of hope as she tried to find the right response. What did she have that the previous owner didn't? A wave of uncertainty washed over her, but deep inside, she felt the flicker of determination reignite. "Because I understand what this bakery means to a community," she said, recalling the joyful memories she had shared with Lucas. The laughter, the smells, the shared moments of joy, all were stitched into her DNA, creating a fabric too vibrant to ignore. "I want to honor that legacy while embedding my own dreams into it." Clara's sharp gaze softened only slightly at Emily's declaration. "And what about the recipes? Do you even know how to bake?" A lump formed in Emily's throat. She hadn't focused on the technical demands yet, preoccupied with building the vision. "I've baked before. I can learn. I want to experiment, create new flavors while still paying homage to the classics, like the chocolate chip cookies that my mom made." As soon as those words escaped her lips, she could feel a tangible connection to her past. The smiles, warmth, and love she and Lucas had once shared felt within reach again. It wasn't just about the recipes. It was about rediscovering herself. Clara studied her for a moment longer, and for a flicker of time, Emily believed she saw a hint of admiration within the scrutiny. "Then you'll need to prove it, Emily. Bake something, and if it resonates, I'll consider helping you. And if it fails..." She leaned in, her voice matching the intensity of Emily's heart. "You'll need to decide if you have the strength to carry on, or if you'll retreat back into the shadows." Emily nodded, igniting the promise of her culinary exploration. She had lit a flame, one that had the power to forge a new beginning, not just for the bakery, but for herself. The walls of uncertainty fell away as she retraced her steps to the kitchen, invigorated with purpose. With each deliberate motion she gathered the ingredients, planning to merge the familiar with innovative ideas that would cultivate a welcoming environment for families, children, and friendships. Yet just as inspiration bore down upon her, a chilling thought crossed her mind. What if her best wasn't good enough? Could she balance rekindling cherished memories against the harsh judgment of critics? With determination amplifying in her heart, Emily prepared to experiment, knowing she had the power to reshape her own destiny. The stakes were high, the past loomed large, but every endeavor began with a singular choice. Would her first creation solidify her position, or would it push her further into self-doubt? As she cracked the eggs into the mixing bowl, a voice within warned her. The journey ahead was fraught with uncertainty, and today's efforts would merely set the stage for the test that awaited. A test that would define not only her future, but also the resilience of her spirit. As she mixed, a thought lingered in her mind. Perhaps the shadows of fear would always chase her, but she would learn to run faster. The real question wasn't just about proving herself, it was about discovering whether her identity could survive amid the evolving challenge. With her heart pounding and anticipation crackling in the air, Emily wondered, would she embrace this new trial, or would she allow doubt to snatch the dream just out of reach? Emily stood at the kitchen counter, the coolness of the marble grounding her amidst the whirlpool of anxiety and excitement. She took another breath, inhaling the scent of the flour that danced in the air like memories, bright yet fragile, just waiting to be touched. Today was not simply about ingredients, it was about creating something that held her dreams, a tangible representation of her resolve. As she sifted the flour, a rhythm started to emerge, a quiet dance between her hands and the materials before her. Memories of her mother guiding her in this very place flooded back, laughter mixing with the sounds of baking. The sweet nostalgia urged her on. With each cup of sugar she poured echoing stories of warmth and resilience. Yet, amid the comfort of old patterns, doubt snaked through her thoughts. What if today wasn't just about reimagining the bakery? What if it was about exposing her inadequacies? With Clara's challenge fresh in her mind, she chuckled softly. It felt absurd. The very act of creating something wholesome suddenly felt layered with expectations. Determined to confront the uncertainty, she pressed on. So, what if I do mess up? She murmured, almost chiding herself aloud. What if this is just another disappointment? But hadn't every setback once seemed insurmountable? Hadn't she fought through feelings of rejection before, clawing her way back to a place of self-acceptance? She pushed memories aside to focus on the task at hand. It was time to rise above. She reached for the eggs, recalling her confidence from earlier. Experiment, create, revive, she recited quietly. It was a mantra, one that embedded itself deeper within her core. Cracking the first egg, she was filled with an odd sense of liberation. Each sheer moment of separation between shell and substance echoed her courage to face the unknown. One by one, they fell into the mixing bowl, vibrant yellow yolks cascading like molten gold. She watched the blend of eggs and sugar transform. It wasn't merely about baking or trying to fit into the shoes of the past. It was about crafting a piece of her identity. As she mixed vigorously, a new thought formed. The creation could be imperfect yet beautiful, just like her journey. What she produced in that bowl wouldn't have to navigate through Clara's expectations entirely. It would be a reflection of her growth, a testament of her struggle to emerge anew. With determination fueling her movements, she decided to incorporate flavors that reflected her personality. She would add a hint of zest from fresh lemons, a touch of spice from ginger, and finish with small chunks of chocolate, creating a culinary juxtaposition that was uniquely hers. Balance, she reminded herself. A balance of old and new. She envisioned a bakery filled with patrons sharing moments over her baked goods, laughter echoing amid familiar sights and smells. Yet, with the flicker of hope came creeping doubt again. What if Clara didn't understand? Or worse, what if her creation fell flat? A swirling tempest of feelings battled within her, a merging of ambition intertwined with the haunting whispers of inadequacy. Sprinkling a dash of salt into her mix, Emily released a shudder of frustration. Salt, she realized, could enhance flavors, deepen complexities rather than dull them. She wanted her journey, much like the flavors she infused, to connect with the triumphs over adversity. What if, Emily whispered again, what if this could be the start of something marvelous? As she poured the mixture into the waiting pan, she glanced down, her reflection within the batter catching her attention. She saw someone transformed, a person molded by both fear and wonder, aspiring to contribute her voice to a long-standing tradition. With the oven preheating, anticipation grew thick in the air. The enticing aroma would soon meld into the memories of many, creating new stories. The thought relaxed her, grounding her in the moment yet again. But as Emily stepped back to clean up, her heart raced at the daunting realization. This would be her first true test, not just of baking, but of herself. The patience required as the dough baked echoed the tension of her internal journey. Could she stay anchored through the tempest of judgments that might come? What awaited her when that timer rang? Just as she reached for her phone to catch a glimpse of the time, her eyes flickered to the notes scattered on the counter. Clara had left her with not just a challenge, but a glimpse of the need for courage through vulnerability. Every risk she took today was a step toward rediscovery. Could she muster the strength to face not just Clara but herself under the reviewing gaze of her past? As the timer pierced through the kitchen, a wave of realization washed over her. The true journey was still unfolding, and Emily was just beginning to write her own story. With brazen excitement, she opened the oven, ready to face whatever emerged, hoping it would mark her triumphant entry into a world she desperately wanted to reclaim. But as doubt flirted with hope, Emily couldn't shake the question. Would the creation emerging from the oven be celebrated or scorned? The timer's shrill beep pulled Emily from her reverie, punctuating the air with a sharp reminder of the moment she had been anticipating. Her heart pounded in her chest, each thud a drumroll heralding the unveiling of her creation. She had stirred fear and ambition into her batter, but what if it could yield something unexpected, something transcendent? With shaky hands, she opened the oven door. A wave of warmth washed over her as she peered inside, the golden hue of the cake glistening under the faint glow of the light bulb. It rose, proudly defying her doubts, and for an instant, she felt at peace. But that tranquility was quickly smothered by a rush of adrenaline. She could almost hear Clara's voice echoing in her mind, probing her, questioning her choices. With cautious optimism, Emily pulled the cake from the oven and let it cool slightly. The scent filled her small kitchen, weaving a tapestry of nostalgia and hope. It was a harbinger of her desires, the dreams she had sown within the batter now mingling with the lingering aroma of her mother's kitchen. Yet, as she prepared to decorate, her excitement flickered beneath the surface, shadows of doubt clawing their way back in. She reached for the icing, her heart racing at the thought of presenting this to Clara. What if the flavors were off? What if it didn't reflect her intent? With each stroke of the spatula, she battled these creeping uncertainties. Just breathe, she whispered to herself, remembering the mantra that had guided her through the earlier phases of baking. Experiment, create, revive. The words felt like a lifebuoy in a turbulent sea of expectations. This was not about anyone else. It was an expression of her evolution. Taking a deep breath, Emily began to pipe swirls of vibrant buttercream atop the cake, focusing on each twist and turn. With every decorative flourish, she felt her resolve solidify. Each dollop infused not just sweetness, but a reflection of her journey, the distinct notes accentuating her voice beyond the confines of her anxiety. Finishing touches complete, she stepped back to admire her creation. It didn't just look beautiful. It encapsulated her story in layers of flavor and design. The colors mirrored the vibrant energy she wished to exude, a bridge between her past and the present. Yet, as the cake sat before her, a wave of apprehension crashed down once more. Clara had not just posed a challenge, she represented the very embodiment of judgment. Would she be able to see Emily's intentions weave through the layers, or would she dismiss it as another misguided attempt? Feeling suddenly fatigued under the weight of her self-doubt, Emily dug in her heels, reminding herself why she had embarked on this journey. She wasn't just baking. She was reclaiming a part of herself. With renewed determination, she focused on the moment ahead. Placing the cake delicately onto a pedestal, Emily took a final, steadying breath. This presentation wasn't merely about the confection before her. It was about stepping into her own light, being unafraid of the scrutiny that awaited her and Clara. As she prepared to leave the warm retreat of her kitchen, a thrilling wave washed over her, carrying with it a surge of confidence. The cake was ready, but more importantly, so was she, to embrace what lay beyond this door. Stepping outside, adrenaline coursed through her veins. Each step toward Clara's shop felt monumental, a series of small victories piling upon one another. But as she approached the doorway, hands trembling slightly with the weight of both the cake and her intention, a terrifying thought struck her. What if Clara rejected not just the cake, but her entire journey? Emily paused, half a breath away from her goal, questioning everything she had built. Was she truly ready to share not merely a slice of cake but a piece of herself? The moment suspended, she felt herself at a precipice, a single decision determining whether she would continue to grow or retreat into silence. The time had come to face Clara, her doubts, and perhaps most importantly, herself. With a resolute breath, she reached for the door, preparing to step inside, when a sudden, unexpected noise startled her. What lay behind that door might shatter her expectations or grant her the empowerment she had yearned for. Would it be a moment of vindication or a devastating setback? Emily pushed the door open, a jingle from the small bell overhead slicing through the tension thickening the air. As she stepped inside, the familiar aroma of baked goods enveloped her. Yet it felt different today, like an invitation rather than a memory. She stood frozen for a moment, observing the shop, a sanctuary of culinary artistry. Flour dust danced in the sunlight filtering through the window, mirroring the chaos of emotions swirling within her. At the counter, Clara was arranging freshly baked pastries. Her eyes caught Emily's, and a smile formed at the corners of her mouth. Was it genuine, or merely polite? It was the same ambiguous expression Emily had tried to decipher countless times. Somehow it felt different now. She wasn't just entering as an admirer, but as a contributor, an equal. "Emily, you came!" Clara exclaimed, breaking the momentary stillness. Her voice held warmth, but the usual bravado felt heavier today, as if she sensed Emily's inner turmoil. Yes," Emily stammered. I brought something." The cake box sat heavy in her hands, almost an anchor tethering her to the floor. It wasn't just flour and sugar. It was her declaration, solidifying her growth and persistence in one compact form. With Clara's gaze fixed on her, Emily navigated toward the serving station. She felt as if an invisible spotlight illuminated her, every detail magnified. The shifting weight of anxiety coursing through her, the steady beat of her heart reminding her of the stakes. Deep breaths came easier as she approached, a voice in her head urging her forward. "This is me, asserting my choice," she reminded herself. No one else's voice, just her own. Clara gently lifted the box and opened it with a meticulousness that compounded Emily's anticipation. The layers of the cake puffed up in the box, colorful swirls of frosting glistening under the fluorescent lights. "Wow, Emily, this looks incredible," Clara said, examining her creation. Emily's heart swelled at the compliment, igniting a flicker of pride amidst the storm of nerves. "I wanted it to showcase my journey, my flavors." Clara's eyebrows raised, a mixture of surprise and intrigue glittering in her eyes. "You created this with intention. Tell me about it." As the words spilled from Emily's lips, she felt herself relaxing into confidence. She spoke of the ingredients, the courage behind every stir, the blends symbolizing her trials. Clara listened intently, nodding along, her initial judgment now transformed into engagement. "Every layer tells a story," Emily asserted, surprised by the conviction in her own voice. "It's about celebrating growth, not just perfection." In that moment, something shifted. Clara leaned back, contemplative. "You know, the best creations come from vulnerability. You've embraced that here," she admitted, her tone softer, perhaps a whisper of something more than just an acknowledgement of the cake. Emily felt the resonance of those words echoing within her. Each layer was not merely a culinary achievement, it was a testament to embracing her authentic self, a bridge between who she had been and who she was becoming. Clara's reaction was pivotal, not just for her small confection but for Emily's entire journey of self-discovery. "Would you let me feature your cake in the gallery?" Clara's question landed like a guiding star amid the backdrop of her uncertainty. This is more than dessert. It's an inspiring tale of resilience. For a moment, the air stilled, all possibilities lingering on a held breath. Here, Emily stood on the precipice of transformation, recognition not only of her cake, but of her journey. Could she launch into this new chapter, embracing the challenge and recognition? As she weighed Clara's words, steeped in meaning, another thought pierced through, demanding her attention. What if feedback on this creation could bring clarity, unraveling further details about herself she hadn't yet uncovered? "Thank you, Clara," Emily replied, but beneath her words lay a deeper question stirring within her. A profound challenge she was ready to face. Would she let the fear of judgment hold her back, or would she rise to embrace the lessons that awaited her? With Clara's gaze steady upon her, the decision loomed. This was not just about the cake. It was an escalation toward something greater, an opening of the door to the self she had only glimpsed. Would she step fully into this truth, or cling to her uncertainties? As Clara prepared to slice the cake, Emily found herself breathless with the possibility of what lay ahead. The moment for answers was approaching. Would she find the fortitude to embrace whatever truths were unearthed, or would the shadows of doubt snatch it away? The knife glided through the cake's layers, each slice revealing a vivid tapestry of colors and textures. Clara's movements were deliberate, but the air crackled with anticipation, and Emily felt all eyes in the shop drawn to this singular moment. Each cut felt like a metaphoric incision into her own being, exposing fears and dreams that lay hidden. "Let's invite some people in," Clara suggested, her tone tinged with excitement as she carefully placed slices onto plates. Emily nodded but felt the breath hitch in her chest. The gallery wasn't merely a showcase of her cake. It was a revelation, a public confrontation with her own insecurities. "Your work deserves to be shared," Clara assured, noticing Emily's hesitation. "This is your moment. Every story matters, especially when it springs from your own journey." Emily's heart raced. The idea of unveiling her vulnerability to others was both exhilarating and terrifying. Would they see the layers of struggle and triumph she instilled in the cake, or would they focus solely on the superficial sweetness? "Clara, what if they don't understand?" Emily questioned, her voice tinged with an undercurrent of doubt. The uncertainty of how others would receive her creation loomed heavily. What if they dissect it and find only flaws? For a fleeting moment, Clara paused, studying Emily. Sometimes the biggest challenge isn't about them understanding. It's about you learning to embrace the story behind your creation. You've laid your heart into this. Protect it fiercely. The validation Clara offered resonated deeply within Emily, igniting a spark of resolve. As the customers filtered into the bakery, drawn in by the aroma of cake and camaraderie, Emily prepared to share her narrative. Conversations buzzed around her, a symphony of laughter and excitement, yet she felt as if she hovered at the edge of a precipice, on the brink of something monumental. "Who's going to be the first to taste it?" Clara called out, breaking the tension. Emily noticed a group of bakery regulars stepping forward, their eyes brightening with curiosity. This was it. Here was where her cake would either soar or falter. In that moment, with adrenaline rushing through her veins, Emily stepped toward the crowd. Over her shoulder, she glanced at Clara, who mouthed an encouraging, "You got this." With that silent reinforcement, she found her voice. "I created this cake not just for its flavors, but as a reflection of my own journey," Emily began, steadying her breath. "Each element represents the challenges I've faced, the ingredients of resilience, vulnerability, and acceptance." The silence enveloped her, tensing like a taut string, and she felt a flicker of warmth spreading through the room. The first bite was taken by Clara herself, her eyes lighting up as she savored the distinct layers. "Incredible!" she exclaimed, and the room burst into applause. Emily's heart raced with disbelief and elation, a response she had yearned for but once deemed unattainable. As slices were shared, she couldn't help but draw parallels between her cake's experience and her own. With every flavor appreciated, it felt as though she released a piece of her story into the world, a courageous act of connection. Then, amidst the euphoria, a customer asked, "What kept you going? How did you overcome the doubts?" The question cut deeper than any knife, prompting swift internal reflection. Here was the moment she had dreaded and desired. "I suppose it was a choice," Emily admitted, her voice thick with emotion. "I chose to face my fears instead of hiding from them. It wasn't easy, but each challenge added flavor to my life, deepening the experience." The sincerity in her response seemed to resonate, ushering murmurs of agreement through the small crowd. But her journey wasn't over. Self-doubt lingered just beneath the applause. As Clara celebrated each slice's popularity, a shadow loomed. What if recognition became a double-edged sword? Would this aggregation of voices drown out her own? The time had come to acknowledge that success wouldn't be the absence of doubt, but the courage to move forward despite it. Yet the question now remained. Could she cultivate this newfound strength? Could she harness the applause not as validation, but as fuel for continued growth? As the festivities unfolded, Emily looked around, her mind running rapidly through possibilities and responsibilities that accompanied this spotlight. She wasn't merely a budding cake artist. She now stood on the threshold of a commitment to her craft, willing to explore the depths of her creativity. Clara approached her, a gleam in her eyes. "I think we should talk more about featuring your work beyond today. This is only the beginning." The idea sent an electric thrill through her, mingling excitement with apprehension. Emily felt herself teetering at the inception of a new chapter. Would she rise to this challenge willingly, or would the gravity of expectation overwhelm her? The dawning realization hit hard. The journey ahead promised to be as intricate as her cake, filled with layers yet to be uncovered. And somewhere in that complexity, she could begin to redefine not just who she was, but who she could become. As the laughter and warmth of the bakery swirled around her, Emily understood that the real test lay not just in overcoming personal barriers, but in genuinely charting the path of her evolution. What came next would require the audacity to explore uncharted territory, an adventure awaiting her readiness to dive deeper into herself. "Let's do it," she said finally, a determined smile breaking through. The road ahead was uncertain but exhilarating, a path that promised discovery and the unveiling of a new Emily who was ready to rise. Would this newly forged courage lead her to embrace everything life had to offer, or would the shadows of doubt hinder her steps in the new terrain? The aroma of fresh cake lingered in the air like a comforting embrace as Emily stood at the cusp of potential. Clara's invitation to feature her work was a gentle push into the unknown, and beneath the layers of excitement simmered an undercurrent of anxiety. Emily's heart raced, not out of fear, but rather anticipation. Here lay an opportunity to sculpt her future, yet there was also a flicker of dread. Would navigating this new terrain strip her of the voice she had only just begun to find? As the applause softened and customers resumed their conversations, Emily's thoughts spun in a whirlwind of possibilities. She could envision her cakes in local markets, becoming a staple, celebrated not for the sweetness alone, but for the stories woven into their very essence. Yet with each vision came the haunting reminder of her insecurities, the nagging doubt that perhaps she wasn't cut out for this reality. What if people only liked the cake and not the story? She muttered softly to herself, the question echoing her earlier fears. Clara, who had been observing Emily with an expectant gaze, leaned closer. "Remember, Emily, flavors mingle, stories intertwine. If you bring who you are into your work, people will connect with it on a deeper level. There's no genuine creation without the artist behind it." That perspective anchored Emily, forcing her to confront her insecurities head-on. She needed to remember the purpose behind her art. It wasn't simply about confectionery delights. It was about crafting connections between herself and the world. Each layer of her cake represented a part of her journey, a tangible reflection of her growth. "Right," she replied, finding a steadiness in her voice. "I'll pour my story into every creation. They may start with the cake, but they'll leave with my experience." Clara smiled, pleased with Emily's newfound clarity. "Let's discuss ideas. Collaborations can help you expand your reach." Collaborations. The term ignited another wave of apprehension. Emily had often shied away from teamwork, fearing that her autonomy would be compromised. But this was different. This was growth. Embracing collaboration meant opening herself up to new possibilities, inviting feedback and perhaps learning to trust others with her vision. The prospect was tantalizing yet intimidating. "Should I be preparing not just for praises but for critiques?" she questioned, her brow furrowing with uncertainty. "Absolutely. Every piece of feedback is a chance to learn, to refine your voice," Clara encouraged. "Your response to that feedback is what will ultimately define the next chapter in your career." Emily nodded, absorbing Clara's wisdom. The exit from her comfort zone would require more than courage. It would demand resilience. The fear of harsh criticism would be a companion, but not an anchor. She would acknowledge it, yet push beyond it. As they discussed potential events for showcasing her work, Emily felt an unexpected surge of energy. The anxiety transformed into excitement, and her pulse quickened, not merely in apprehension, but in exhilaration at the thought of her creations reaching a wider audience. She was no longer merely the unassuming baker. She was an artist, ready to carve a path in her profession. The clarity also initiated a deeper contemplation. What were the stories she wanted to tell? She felt the stirring of latent ideas within her, memories of life's mixing bowls, each ingredient representing a hardship and triumph in her life. Baking was the canvas upon which she could paint those narratives. She envisioned new cakes that spoke of resilience, joy, and even sorrow, each recipe a chapter of her autobiography baked into edible form. But in the midst of vivid dreams, a lingering thought poked at her resolve. What if her vulnerability turned into weakness under the scrutiny of a wider audience? Sharing her narrative meant unveiling fragile parts of herself. What if they were perceived only as flaws? With a breath, she made a decision. This was no longer about hiding behind the counter where she felt safe. The path she had chosen required authenticity, and embracing her truth was the only way to genuinely connect. She must begin with herself, even as she braced for how others might react. "Let's not just bake, let's invoke emotions," she declared, igniting a spark in Clara's eyes. "Now you're speaking my language," Clara replied, beaming. "Let's brainstorm." As excitement pulsed through her, Emily felt a shift within, a blossoming awareness of her power as an artist and storyteller. No longer would she be confined by second-guessing. She would set the stage for herself, actively carving her narrative into the world. In that moment of revelation, she recognized the pivotal truth. She was ready to embrace the layers of her own journey, trusting that the cake and her story would resonate beyond mere taste. Yet, as she scribbled notes alongside Clara, a flutter of doubt crept in, whispering caution. What challenges awaited her as her creations reached a broader audience? Would she find acceptance, or would the fear of rejection loom larger than before? As they dove into brainstorming, Emily's resolve hardened. The path ahead would not be easy, but she was determined to take each step, each personal risk. This was just the beginning, an opportunity to redefine her artistry, challenge her limits, and explore all she could become. Little did she know that a confrontation awaited just around the corner, an unexpected voice from her past that might test her resolve in ways she couldn't yet imagine. Would she be able to hold on to her newfound confidence? Time moved with a deliberate pace as Emily threw herself into the preparation of her bakery's reopening. Armed with Clara's support, she engaged in countless hours of testing recipes, designing a menu that infused her personal journey into every offering. Each creation became a reflection of her growth: cakes that spoke of resilience, cookies that called forth joy, and pastries that narrated love and warmth. As the days turned into weeks, Emily found herself immersed in a routine that had begun to feel increasingly fulfilling. With every successful batch, she not only refined her skills but also transformed her relationship with her insecurities. The first time she received customer feedback was pivotal. A family shared how her cookies reminded them of their own cherished memories of home. It was an affirmation that ignited her spirit. Her journey was resonating beyond her personal narrative. It was weaving into the lives of others. The day of the grand reopening arrived, enveloped in the sweet perfume of freshly baked goods, as patrons streamed in, eager to embrace this new beacon of flavor and comfort. Emily's heart raced. She stood behind the counter, a mixture of excitement and trepidation coursing through her. The shelves were stocked with her creations, each item standing testament to her months of hard work, underscoring her evolution from uncertainty to determination. Yet just as the crowd began to fill the bakery, the door swung open, and in strode a familiar face, one she had hoped to avoid but could not escape. Her estranged sister, Kate, stepped inside, her presence striking a chord of anxiety deep within Emily. Concerns flooded her mind. What would Kate think? Would she judge her choices? The unforgiving mirror of familial judgment loomed uncomfortably close, but the newfound confidence she had cultivated pushed her to confront this moment head-on. "Emily," Kate's voice cut through the chatter, pulling every eye in the bakery toward her. There was an edge of reproach mingled with disbelief. "You actually did it." The atmosphere tensed into an awkward pause, as if Emily's world hung between past resentments and present victories. "I did," Emily replied, striving to sound steady. She focused on the cake beside her, an ingenious lemon-ginger creation embellished with cookies, symbolizing her blend of heritage and personal growth, a fusion of two worlds that had once seemed irreconcilable. "Do you have a minute?" Kate asked, her tone shifting, almost softer now. This wasn't easy, but Emily sensed an opening. With a nod, she led her sister to a quieter corner of the bakery away from the flurry of customers. "What's on your mind?" Kate hesitated, her eyes reflecting uncertainty. "I came to see if you were okay, after everything." She gestured vaguely in the air. "I didn't know you were planning to reopen this place. Are you really sure about it? You know how tough it could be." Emily stood her ground, a mix of determination and vulnerability bubbling to the forefront. "I am sure. This bakery is my way of defining my own future. I'm ready to embrace any challenges that come my way. Running this place is part of reclaiming my story, our story. Kate's expression shifted to one of surprise, her brows knitting together. You've changed, and so have you, Emily replied, indicating the years that had strained their relationship. I never thought we'd be here, but perhaps it's time we let go of our past grievances and embrace the opportunities we have now. The tension that had once rooted them in silence began to dissolve with each word exchanged. As they shared stories of dreams, fears, and aspirations, Emily realized that they were both undergoing transformations prompted by the past, mirroring the essence of baking, where disparate ingredients come together to form something delightful. Emily found herself reconciling her viewpoint with her sisters. I want us to rediscover what it means to be family, she added, feeling a wave of clarity flush through her. This is actually quite beautiful, Emily, Kate murmured, glancing around the bakery filled with life and laughter, as if recognizing it for the first time. You've turned something awful into something extraordinary. Thank you, Emily said, her heart soaring, and I hope it's just the beginning. By the end of their conversation, each woman bore a newfound hope, and the walls that had long divided them began to crack. Emily had taken control of her narrative through action, reclaiming her confidence while also standing firm in forgiveness, a profound growth that echoed not just in the bakery, but within herself. As customers continued to celebrate this new chapter, Emily realized that her journey transcended the boundaries of cupcakes and cookies. She had embraced the trials of her past, proving to both herself and to others that courage to evolve lay in the hands of those who dared to dream. Amidst the flourishing laughter adorned with treats, her heart brimmed with gratitude. The bakery was more than a mere business. It was a canvas for her life, a testament to triumph over adversity, and an affirmation of connection renewed. In this space, she flourished both as an artist and as a daughter and sister. With the echoes of laughter and clinking of plates reverberating around her, Emily found her confidence solidified, her passion realized. She had achieved more than simply running a bakery. She had cultivated a space of love and joy, built upon the foundations of deeply personal stories. At last, Emily was ready to take the next step in her life, a commitment to herself, to her craft, and an ongoing adventure of rediscovery with her sister beside her once more. Every layer of her cake reflected her transformation. She had not just conquered her fears, but had woven them into beautiful narratives. This was just the beginning, an exhilarating glimpse of what lay ahead. Now, as she turned to embrace the warmth of support and love radiating around her, Emily understood it was in sharing stories, connecting through vulnerability, and celebrating every flavor of existence where true fulfillment resided. Subscribing immediately to this channel is essential for you if you want to witness more transformative stories like Emily's. This is the moment to show your support and immerse yourself in narratives of personal growth. Don't wait even one more second to leave a like, as it feeds our algorithm and brings forth stories that matter. Comment below what your thoughts are about Emily's incredible journey, and share instantly this chapter with at least 5 friends who would benefit from these uplifting conclusions.